It's Peggy from Knowledge Leaders, and I am happy to introduce you today to my friend Shane Goldstein Smith. Hey, Shane.
Hey Peggy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining me today for this video. I appreciate it.
Happy to. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah, me too. I wanted to do this brief video with Shane because I talk to a lot of incredible people who have been working at districts as superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, teachers, and they want to make the pivot to roles inside for-profit ed tech companies. It's not always an easy leap to make, but Shane has made it. So I thought she and I could talk about some best practices that we think could help you if moving into a new role in ed tech is your goal. Shane, why don't we start with you telling us kind of a brief snapshot of your career journey?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I want to be clear as I give this. My journey is my journey, right? These journeys look totally different, and I think there's lots of different paths that people could have taken. And I'm still on my journey, right? So I've got more to learn. Um, so I was a high school history teacher in Chicago for a decade. I was a principal twice in Chicago and a deputy chief of schools. And then my family moved to New York. I was a chief schools officer for a charter network. From that charter network, I moved to a tech company that was opening schools. And then was a chief academic officer for an ed tech startup. And those three New York positions, I think, really helped to cement my kind of move away from pure academia to where I'm at now, which is ed tech consulting and consulting for folks who are looking to try to do this work. This is the work I do every day.
And what is it like working within a district? Is it insular? Is that what makes people think they can't make the leap or worried about making the leap?
Think, look, we've all been there, right? Which is you spend a lot of time in a space that is largely the same. You take one position, which promotes you to another position, which promotes you to another position, which by the way is not any different than somebody who's working for a bank or a real estate company or anybody else. You get comfortable in the community you're in, and that's completely understandable. And many people spend their life working for that particular position and then look to retire in that space. If it's feeling like you're looking for more, I think there's ways to consider how to learn about communities and industries that are outside of the one that you're currently being exposed to. That is advice for everybody, not just academia, but I think it's particularly specific for academia where the vocabulary is specific and it's hard to see how your skills are transferable without having somebody point them out to you and kind of shine them up and explain how you can make them really sizzle.
Right, right. So let's do some of that shining up. You're going to walk us through some best practices that we've thought about and some that you've employed as you made your journey. Talk us through some.
Yeah, so I think the ones off the top of my head are relationship building and investing in getting to know people and building your network, understanding what it's like to work with stakeholders and how you can transfer that to being in sales or in client solution, which is the same. When you have an angry parent or an angry community member or somebody who's got a pain point and you listen and help build a solution, it's the same exact thing when you work in client facing work that you want to be able to help, hear their pain points and build their solutions. And then the hard specifics of what it means to run a business, right? A P&L, understanding scarce resources or an excess of resources, how to be able to generate revenue, how you go out and rainmake, which is essentially philanthropy. There's lots of different ways that you can take those skills that you are doing every day and change them to the language of the for quote unquote business or for profit sector that makes people understand what you don't want is you don't want them to have to dig to look for where your experience doesn't seem like the experience they're looking for.
And we've talked about that. It seems like such a small thing, but learning the jargon, there's jargon working in the schools that is specific to doing that job. And there's jargon specific to working in ed tech and education companies.
Yeah.
We were talking about some of the ways people could become familiar with that jargon. What were your ideas?
So it's endless learning and curiosity, right? Like surround yourself with the myriad of different ways that you can possibly get information, right? I mean, read the newspaper or listen to NPR, get all of the kind of major listen to CNBC, kind of getting that just finger pulse or like heartbeat of what the industry is seeing or speaking. That's always helpful. Just being knowledgeable in general is one. Um, Articles, podcasts, research that's being put out. Business schools are phenomenal at doing this, as are innovation or like EdTech accelerator type folks that live, you see a lot of them in New York and San Francisco, sometimes Los Angeles, fair amount coming out of Chicago, and all of the communities, right? North Carolina, Austin, there's like accelerator EdTech innovator or places that have lots of curiosity and creativity that's building, that they have a lot of people that are either posting or putting out articles, lots of different spaces. And then I think the big one that's the easiest is ASU GSV has a newsletter that comes out every day that they chunk into pre-K through 12 news, higher ed news. There's a new segment on artificial intelligence that's out there. So there's lots of ways to just continually surround yourself with this work.
I think doing that really gives you more confidence, because it's not going to feel like a foreign language, because everyone's talking about education, but it's the way that they're framing it that I think is interesting. And on the really simple end, I often suggest to people, go to education companies' websites that you really admire. Look at about how they're talking about their product and their business. Look at their job postings and how they're what verbiage are they using in describing the skill sets that they're looking for. You probably have those skill sets. You're just talking about them in a different way, right?
That's right. That's right. And the vocabulary within those job skills, like the way who they're looking for and what they're looking for, you can literally sit with your own resume and that job description or a sample job description and say, where can I find examples of this? And then find ways to edit or adjust your resume to be able to do that. You do that a couple of times and then your resume is complete, or your LinkedIn profile is complete, to be able to position yourself in a way. It is a sell job a little bit on you to be able to say, I worked in one industry and now I'm interested in doing another, but I bring a really specific vantage point and a window into schools that is so valuable for for-profit companies, because it's really hard to get access to.
It so is. And I know so many education companies and ed tech companies who are really excited about hiring teachers and principals as salespeople. Who could better describe to another educator the impact and the benefits of a product than someone who's been in their shoes and been in the weeds, right? You talked too about networking, kind of spreading your wings, and engaging with people that weren't necessarily part of your smaller world or your school world, let's say.
Yeah. It's a challenging thing, right? Because you build your community around the people that you work with, and so you have a lot of expertise in that space. My encouragement is to look outside of that community. I think that community has lots of value in lots of different ways. But for you to build your skills further, it can be everything. It can be the people that work with you, right? Your accountant, your lawyer, your realtor. I mean, just they have a different view on how the market works than you do. So those are great ways to do it. Additionally, it can be people within your social circle, your religious affiliations, your community involvement, your volunteerism. Ways to help out your specific community. And I think that folks are always happy and interested to talk about the kind of work that they do. And so when you express that interest or that curiosity, you're not trying to necessarily leverage their information. You're just learning about what it is they do. It then gives you that confidence that you were talking about before. You can go to a job interview or talk with somebody who's interested in posting something and say, I have a lot of interest in this and I have done this in my career. Here's how.
And even those ed tech and education company vendors that called on you all the time during your career,
That's right.
Connect with them on LinkedIn. That's a particular connection inside a company that might be interested in the skill set you bring.
I totally agree.
We've been talking about this, and I think you mentioned it earlier. You have to, whether you're making a pivot from being in the schools to an ed tech company or anything else, you have to really brand yourself in a public way so that recruiters like myself and anyone else looking for someone with a specific skill set can find you. And we do that mostly through LinkedIn. I know recruiters use it like a dating service. We're swiping and swiping, trying to find the right set of words that attract us. And so it's really important, as Shane was talking about, this jargon and really understanding that and finding out how that jargon matches the skills that you do have, and then moving that language over to your LinkedIn page to describe it in a way that recruiters and others will be able to make that connection. That's really important. Another thing about LinkedIn is that getting noticed is something that is easy to do. You can make posts, you can share posts, and these reveal things about you and about what you care about. I have to say that a lot of the superintendents, everyone that I've spoken to that works at a district, DEI is a very important thing. Um, these people are leaders, are leading the
Mhm.
efforts in DEI in school districts. So this is an area that companies are dying to have expertise and passion around. So doing articles or making comments on LinkedIn about these things that are important to you and that really match what you're passionate about it and what you've experienced in the past is really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think oftentimes an academic resume is encouraged to be very data heavy and very jargony around the things that they've done within the spaces they've done it. If you can transition that to a much more crisp, pithy, specific around the things that we talked about before, right? The relationship building, the business management, the people management, investing in stakeholders, and an understanding of communities and a desire to serve equitably across those communities, you've completely um, altered what was an original perspective on you to something that really heightens up the skills that you have. And that I think is a home run for a candidate.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Shane and I have told you what we think. Now we want to hear from you. Please comment in this post. What best practices did we miss? Have you made this pivot? How did you do it? We want to learn from one another, and we will continue this conversation. I'd love to. How about you, Shane?
Yeah, I told Peggy when we first started talking about it, this is a conversation that has, been needing to be had for so long. I'm thrilled that we're starting it. I can't wait to hear from all of you.
I'm really excited too. And I thank you for watching today.